behind the founder, take one.
Charlotte, introduce yourself. What's your story and what brings you here today?
Hi, I'm Charlotte and I'm one of the co-founders of Elleven. I have a background in originally law, so I studied law, went for job interviews and realised that they just hated me. I went to a job interview, had to present an area of the law, did it on Jay-Z because I found how he had monetised his IP really fascinating, and they said that's not what they were looking for. So I went to LA to see my cousins and had a full-on meltdown about what I was going to do with my life and said I wanted to work in the music industry. Didn't know what that was. So I applied for every job and ended up falling into artist management. I worked at a record label that had a management arm where I was managing kind of more heritage acts. Acts were like big in the 90s and stuff, and was there for a while, got promoted quite quickly there, but then realised I wanted to work with like younger artists and stuff that was like up and coming and all of that. So then I went and worked with a guy called Murray, where we had loads of different things, DJs and bands, and kind of had the full spectrum, independent, a major label, all of that. And then Murray exited the music industry, and one of the artists that I was working with there was Tala, also known as Jasmine, and we kept working together, and she's now my co-founder at Elleven. But in between that time I worked at Sony, I've worked at a company called GQ Media, which was viral video management, so I've kind of done the music industry, a lot of it anyway, and that's what brought us to Elleven.
What is Elleven?
So Elleven is a platform that will enable creators to display their art immersively, to build their superfan community and sell their art as a digital asset all in one platform in a really simple, accessible way. And the importance of Jasmine being on the team as being an artist is that it can't be super techy. It has to be that an artist that has no time for that can understand it. So that's our superpower.
What was the turning point for you as a founder where you really thought, this is it, here we go?
I feel like we're so early, but I feel like we're in a moment right now where I think last year with this blockchain technology that we're working with, there was a lot of focus on the technical side of it and tech-led businesses in that space. And now I think people are starting to understand the human element of what's going to be required to make that tech actually accessible and usable and for there to be a market for it. So I feel like we're suddenly getting a burst of real interest and energy from people because they get that the human side is so important now. So we're at that moment right now.
Do you think there's any sort of key events throughout your career that's really shaped what Elleven is today, but also what it's going to become?
Yeah, I've got my Genesis story, if I was like a super villain or a superhero. So when I was working at K7, which was like my first job, one of the artists I was working with, he was like super big in the 90s, and he'd been recording and touring ever since. This guy's now in his late 40s, I think he might be 50 now. And he had nothing. He didn't own any of his IP, he didn't own a home. Like part of that is bad management that he had, part of that is his own issues and stuff. But I was like, this is crazy that this guy's had such a long career, been really successful, but like owns nothing. This is wild to me. And so that was that's been my reason for being since then, is that creatives should not have to experience that. They should have a ownership of what they've created. And so that's where I came from.
What's the hardest part of being a founder?
So many things. I think something that I'm quite equipped to do is that you're a bit of everything to everybody. Doing artist management is the same thing. You're a therapist, accountant, lawyer, creative director, like all of these things together in one. And so being a founder is that, it's doing all of the things all of the time. I think that having to face your weaknesses as well is really difficult, because when you're trying to do all the things, you suddenly become really clear that some of the things you're not as good at, and then being really honest about that and then outsourcing that shit. Just get rid of it, get it off your plate as soon as you possibly can. So learning that of not trying to take on everything all the time.
And are there any sort of tips that you would kind of give to other founders in terms of how best to address those weaknesses and sort of how to accelerate your business by outsourcing, by working with others?
So I love talking to people, I love going out, speaking on panels, just going out, speaking about what we're building at Elleven, speaking about the community. But something happens, my charisma levels that go to like 0, when I try and translate that from real life onto social media. And so learning how to speak and convey our messaging in a way on social media that's appealing to our particular audience has been really challenging. I was having a little breakdown before I came here today with our marketing manager, because I was just like, this is such a frustration for me. Figuring that out has been really hard. And then stuff like financial modeling, the real nitty gritty of when you start looking to raise funds, there's just a level of detail that you have to go into that I just have never experienced before. So I'm just like learning on the fly. It's like, you're doing like MBA literally on the fly all the time. So yeah, like just the real kind of precise financial modeling I'm like learning. So to be confirmed on that one.
And where do you go to tackle this?
So I have a few little places that help me with that. I'm part of a community called the Stack World, which is particularly for like women in business, women founders. It's led by an incredible woman called Sharmadine Reed, who is one of the few black women in the UK that's raised venture capital funding. So that as a resource is amazing. I am just constantly taking people out for coffee and tapping people up. I try and return the favor with anything that I can help with. I think we can help with kind of like understanding your demographic and all of that kind of stuff. So I kind of try and share knowledge, but it's like building a community of people around you that are good people and don't get too distracted by shiny people that are promising a lot of stuff. Find the good people.
What is the best part of being a founder?
The best part of being a founder is that like I'm really mission driven. And the last company that I worked for, you could just tell in the culture that it lost the mission. And that's just really demotivating for me. So for me, I get up every day and I'm so excited because I'm just so driven by our mission. And I get to just work towards that mission every single day. And that is the best thing for me, is that I know that what we're doing is going to help creatives. And that's like all I want to do in life, is make sure that happens. So yeah, that's the best part. And creating something like what we're trying to build in our business model is not only a successful business, but also doing it in a different way than has been done before. Like it's like a feminine energy we're bringing to the company, and being able to like prove that works, that's really exciting for me as well. That's a driving factor.
And how do you keep yourself motivated towards the vision when there's obviously a lot of nitty gritty that still has to be done, and the financial modeling, for example?
I mean, I have a lot of energy. So it's not, I don't really need like help in the motivation, because my energy is just like, I just feel like I'm kind of weird in that way. I don't know if everyone else is like that, but it kind of like feels like vibrating in me, the need to do this business. But there are days when they're down, and that's my mum. I'm gonna be real with you. It's just my mum. My mum's the biggest cheerleader. She's the one that's like, when there's days when I've put on my to-do list, get a real job, my mum's like, nope, delete that. So, mum.
If there was a magic solution, what's the one thing you'd rather not be doing?
It's not really what I would not be doing. I think that one of the biggest things that if there was a magic solution is I'd like to clone myself. And the reason I say this is that I've got a kid and I want to be with my kid, and especially in this like fundraising phase that we're in at the moment, is that I hate sending cold emails to investors and all that stuff. It just doesn't work. You've got to be in the places. Ideally, I would be at an event every single night and every single lunchtime. I would be meeting people all the time, but I have to balance that with my son, and that is like such. So if I had like magic at all, it would be to clone myself or figure out a way that I could be there for my son and also do that. And so that's the tough bit.
You mentioned fundraising, obviously, as a big part. What are the challenges of that in your space?
I think one of the biggest challenges at first was, I think it took us a year to really crystallize the idea in such a way that it was like, as soon as you say it, people get it. And it sounds so silly because it's almost like crystallizing it down to one sentence. It took us a year to do that we could really back that up and really like making the messaging really sharp. So I think that is like taking your time over polishing that, and don't feel like you've got the idea, like rush out there and start telling people about it. I think tell people about it because that helps you like iterate the messaging, but I think be patient with yourself, that takes time to really hone that messaging. Another thing that I think has been like quite challenging for us is we use Web3 technology, but we're not tech tech-led, we're human-led. And so in the tech industry, when you're raising funding with those types of people, maybe we're not tech enough. But then in the music industry or creative industry, people are quite wary of blockchain technology and what it means because of stuff that's happened over the last couple of years in that space. So I think that we just straddle this quite specific set of different types of investors, and that has been tricky to deal with.
How much has some organisation and your fundraising processes also impacted that? How organised are you as a founder?
Yeah, so things like sorting out your data room, I think that's really important. I think like having that set up sets you apart from just like all the hundreds of people that are trying to raise funds. I'm the kind of person that I work in real fits of energy, so I did that at 1 o'clock in the morning in my hotel room in Madrid a couple of weeks ago. I'm just trying to keep on top of making sure I know who we're reaching out to, doing like my due diligence on them, stalking them on LinkedIn, on Twitter, having really comprehensive notes on who those people are. One of the pitches that I sent, it wasn't a successful pitch, but I sent like really personal email to this guy, and he was like, I'm not really into this space, but your pitch is like the best pitch I've ever received, because I literally was just like, he was a chairman at Leyton Orient Football Club. My dad played for them when he was younger. It was really personal. And so I was like, that was like, if you're doing a cold email, that was the best route for that. But yeah, you've got to get out to the event, so you've got to make sure you know who you're hitting and where they're going to be. It's research.
And when you first started, did you think about these things like data room or have processes because it was important part of the stage of business?
So going back to Stack World, I just did a whole crash course on raising about a year and a half ago. So I knew these were things that we had to get in place just to be professional. I think, especially as we're like an all-women team, it is harder. Just statistically, it's harder for us to raise, and nothing can be let through the cracks. So we just like from the beginning, we were like, got to do this. It's got to be legit.
Did you ever think that you wish you'd done some of this earlier, or things that kind of played?
I actually wish that I'd done all our trademark stuff earlier. Considering my background is law and I specialised in IP, I was very lax about that. I think it's just like you have all this list of stuff and you just do what you can do in the time that you can do it in, and sometimes stuff falls by the wayside. So I think a lot of the like IP stuff and like the legal compliance things, I wish I'd had a bit more visibility on early on, because we have quite a lot of compliance stuff in our industry that we're working in. So I wish I'd got a bit more ahead of the curve on that, especially with how much it's going to cost from a legal perspective.
Walk us through a typical day.
Typical day is get up, try and do some journaling, because that is a really good technique that I think all founders should do. Is I get up every morning and I try and write 3 pages of just whatever stream of consciousness. So even if you can't think of something to write, just say, I can't think of something to write, and write 3 pages of that. Because especially when I'm like, there are invoices coming in or whatever, and I'm like filled with anxiety, get that out, 3 pages, 6:30 in the morning, bash that out, get that done. Anxiety to the back burner for the day. Then I have to get my son ready, get him to daycare, then walk the dogs, then get myself ready. And then usually I'll be heading to town and I will be having a meeting with our marketing team. So marketing strategy, community building is vital for what we're building. So every day we're checking in with the team on what we're doing there. We put on a lot of events, so we'll probably be talking about how an event planning situation's going. Then I will touch base with our engineering team. So we have an external engineering team building our MVP. So it's really important to just keep in contact with them all the time, because they're not internal. We've got to make sure that we're all on the same page. Then I will try and do a couple hours deep work, and I just block that out in my diary. And I will also in the afternoon maybe try and catch up with a colleague or someone in my network. I'm really trying to be really conscious of making sure that I'm reaching out to people, not only for me to get stuff from them, but for me to offer stuff to them. Especially as Jasmine and I are still working in the music industry, she's still an artist. So it's just like we're just keeping moving in the space, so keeping in contact with everybody. And then either I'll be going home to put my son to bed, or I will be trying to hit an event where there may be possible investors or something I can learn. So that's a kind of a typical day at the moment.
Do you have any tips for founders out there who are building a community?
You've got to be real and be yourself. And I think when I first started, because my background was in artist management, I was always behind the camera. I was never the one in front. And I really had to learn to put the camera, put myself in front, put my voice forward. So I think that people could smell a rat. You've got to be genuine, you've got to come from a genuine place within your field, because I've been to conferences and stuff where there are people pitching ideas, similar things to what we're building, but they just don't come from the music industry or the creative industries. They're like tech guys, and people just don't want to talk to them because they're not from that space, they don't speak the language. So I think it's like you've got to really understand your people that you're talking to and be really real. Like if stuff's not going well, I think it's okay to be honest about that or share the journey, and offer something to them, especially of us being pre-product. Like we don't have anything to give you guys right now, so actually we have to give them like a platform, a space, like because it's creative, so we're giving them like space for them to show their art, for them to learn and try and educate and build community that's like a safe space for them. So it's actually just all about them and what they need rather than building it for our purposes.
What type of work do you find after?
Me and Jasmine are like dream team combo. She's like the creative brain, and we will go into a state of flow where we're just bouncing ideas around and it's like mad energy. And then my magic comes in and I can just like make that actionable. I just take like all the concepts and go like, this is how we're gonna execute. And that's like my superpower. It's what I was doing in artist management, and it's what I'm doing today is that we take all the mad ideas, all the cool stuff that we wanna do, and we just like make that shit happen. That's where I'm.
If there was one industry you want to move into apart from one,
100%, I would go into anthropology or something. Like I was really interested in classical history when I was at school, and it's what I would have done at uni if I hadn't done law, but like I was like, got to do something that's like practical. So I really love history of people, because I think that our behaviour now it's human behaviour, and we've done it time and time again, like over thousands and thousands of years. Like, nothing that we're doing is that different. It's all tribalism, anthropology, or like political science. I'm really interested in like human behaviour and like tribe mentality. So yeah, something like that. If anyone wants to fund me for that, I'm happy to go and do it now.
How does interest in anthropology help you as a founder?
Oh, it's literally everything. It's understanding, I think especially in this tech, is like it's what we're building is led by human behaviour. Understanding why someone would switch from one laundry detergent to another laundry detergent is like key to everything. It's understanding like why people do the things that they do, and I think that's been a massive missing link in like Web3 space. Is people think that you should just be really gassed up by the technology because it's really overhyped, but actually it's like, no, like, why is this better, and why would a human adjust their behaviour to incorporate that into their lives? And that's like why Apple is such a great brand, because it's so seamless. It feels like so like integrated into everyone's lives. And so it's like, if you can understand why that works, and you can incorporate that into what you're building, it's magic. So that's why it's key.